Okay, so today I'd finally like to start going over a little bit of how to play the Suling, the Javanese bamboo flute. So, taking a look at our Suling, just like every other instrument, we have two. Yeah, so one is in pelog, that's the one with 5 holes here, and the other is in slendro, that is the one with 4 holes here. We're going to be starting with the one in slendro. So first, let's go over kind of basic positioning. So my right hand is going to be here, and it's going to cover the bottom 2 holes that you can see here, right? And my middle finger is going to go directly in between them, and I'm actually going to grip the Suling a little bit here, so when I let go of my other fingers, I can still hold on to the instrument, yeah? And same thing with my left hand. In general, I'm not covering this with the tip of my finger, but I've actually got my finger kind of flat over the top of it. So when I'm playing, it's like that, yeah? In terms of my embouchure, or my mouth position, it's not going to be like using a Western flute where I have kind of a perched lips like that. No, we're going to have kind of a U shape, so ooh, ooh, ooh. And I'm going to put my mouth directly on that. So my bottom lip is going just over the rim of the Suling here, just over that mouthpiece. And my front lip is pressed directly against the end of the Suling here. All right, so first let's go over the scale. In general, for Suling, we have 3 octaves. Yeah, we have the low, the middle, and the highest octave. For the most part, when you're going from a lower pitch to a higher pitch, it means you have to use more breath power, right? So if I want to play lower notes, I use a little bit less force, and if I want to play higher notes, I use more force. The lowest octave that's possible on the Javanese Suling is not really used at all, right? So we're going to start from the middle octave. So the middle octave is very simple. Cover all the holes, and we've got the note 2, or ro, yeah? And as we're going up the scale, we're just going to uncover 1 hole at a time. Totally straightforward, yeah? So we have ro, lu, mo, num, chi as we go up. So let's try that all together. And back down, starting from chi. Cool. All right, now let's try the upper octave. So for the upper octave, it's a little bit trickier. Again, cover all the holes for the first note, ro, yeah? But we're going to use stronger breath force to get that one. Then for lu, we're going to open 3 holes, so just 1 hole covered. For mo, we're going to close 2 holes and blow even harder. For num, as we're going up, close 3 holes. And finally, the note chi, the high note chi, we're going to have these 2 closed, this one closest to the bottom closed, and then this one right here, we're actually going to leave open. Yeah, so just this second one from the bottom we're going to leave open. So let's practice that all together from the bottom to the top of the high octave. And going back down from top to bottom. Very good. Those high notes can be a little bit tricky to get, so spend some time with them. If you're finding it hard to actually get the note out, try adjusting the position of the Suling to be a little bit more horizontal. Sometimes that can help. And try and look for the exact right breath pressure to be able to get it. Another thing you might have noticed, in that upper octave, I'm actually using a separate breath for each note. Yeah, so that's really important. In the lower octave, it's possible for us to play most of the notes directly in one breath. In the upper octave, especially between lu, mo, num, and chi, we really have to use separate breaths for each one of them. Cool. So try practicing those scales for a little bit, and then we can jump directly into learning patterns, or cengkok. So Suling, just like other flowering instruments in the Javanese Gamelan, is selecting its patterns based on slendro, right? So what is the goal tone? What is the final note of each gotra that I'm trying to play? And that determines the pattern that I'm going to play on the Suling. Now, for Suling Jawa, in general, most of these cengkoks start more or less the same way. So if I'm doing slendro lu, or slendro nem, or slendro chi, the beginning is actually really similar. So what I'd like to do today, before we get into learning these full cengkok, these full patterns, is just learn the beginning of these patterns. So how does that work? Yeah. So first, let's just learn the basic pattern, and then I'll show you exactly how to add in ornaments that really make it kind of sound like Suling. Okay, so now if we've got the scale already comfortable with those notes, what we're going to start doing is learning cengkok. So cengkok are patterns, are pre-formulated patterns that are used by the flowering instruments, or the elaborating instruments. So just like the other instruments of the gamelan, Suling is picking its cengkok based on slendro, right? So based on the goal tone. So what's the last note of the gotra that we're playing, and how do we get there? So for Suling, each of the different slendro has a different cengkok. But one of the nice things about Suling is that most of the beginnings of those cengkok are pretty much the same. So they're all going to start roughly in the same way, yeah? So what I'd like to do today is look at just the beginning of a cengkok, yeah? And then next week we'll add on the tail end, which tells us how to get to all the different slendro. Cool. So first let's do the basic one, and then I'd like to go over some ornamentation in terms of how to actually make it really sound nice. So the basic pattern, we're going to start from high 3, yeah? So high lu. So we'll have lu, 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 ro, chi, lu, mo, ro, lu, chi, ro. All right, so let's try that. And try and pay attention in the notation. If you have that slur marking there, that's going to mean it's all in one breath. Yeah, so pay attention to which notes are separated and which notes are in one breath. So let's try that basic pattern with no ornamentation, just straight playing, yeah? So again, lu, 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 ro, chi, lu, mo, ro, lu, chi, ro. Okay, so once you have that basic pattern down, now it's time to start adding in some ornaments. So first on this high 3, this high lu, we can do one of two different kinds of ornaments, right? We can either pick up our finger very slightly, so as I'm playing, something like that. It's got to stay pretty close, yeah? So something like this. It's really subtle, right? Or another option is using a tonguing, right? So we roll our tongue just like we're going da rat da rat da rat. Either one of those is fine. So we have da yat da yat da ya na lu 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 ro chi. And then for lu mo ro, we can use in between lu and mo, we can use newa, newa. So what I'm going to do for that, I have just this one hold covered for lu. I'm going to cover these two really quickly. Newa, newa. Right before I go to that high mo. Yeah, that takes me just down a half step basically. So we have. And then the rest of it, I've got lu ti ra. As I'm going from ro to lu, I'm going to slide into that. So I'm just going to push all my fingers off, right? Instead of just releasing them, just up. Instead, I'm going to gradually release them. So from ro to lu. And then finally, that last ro, I can just put a waver in it. So I'm just going to take my bottom finger here and I'm just going to slide off it a little bit. Net, net, net. Na, so the whole thing then would be. And that's it. Or if I'm using the tongue roll at the beginning. So that's the beginning half of pretty much every cengkok. So practice that this week, and once you've got that comfortable, next week we're going to add in the ending part of it. So the tail of each cengkok, which will tell us how we're getting to each goal tone. Cool. Well, hope this was helpful, and let me know if you have any questions.